The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewHouse.com. Hi everyone, and welcome into the Press Box, brought to you by the Genesee Brew House. I'm Bill Pucko, happy to be joined this week by, since it's baseball season coming up, our favorite baseball analyst, Greg Keagle from Horseheads, MCC, veteran of the Major Leagues. Nice to have you back.
Good to be back.
Mike Catalana, co-hosting, and Pat Duffy, what do you got? The classic.
It's the 1980 Nolan Ryan Tequila Sunrise jersey. Might be the best jersey in the history of sports jerseys.
Would you have worn that?
If it meant pitching in the big leagues, I would want
Wait. You should want to go out of your way. You should request wearing the Tequila Sunrise jersey.
Wow.
Really? I would think a guy like you would love something like this.
Greg, let's talk a little bit about spring training. So, we see Florida, guys lying around, you guys who have their job secured, they're just sitting around and nothing's really going on. It looks like a blast. There's more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's quite a bit happening behind the scenes at that point. As you mentioned, there's guys that are solidified. They've got roster spots. They're comfortable. They've got their tennis shoes on. They're just pretty much just trying to get into midseason form. And then there's the guys that are on the bubble or trying to make a name for themselves, or unfortunately, maybe even on their last leg, right, on their way out. And it's a very tense time of year.
Did you ever have a comfortable spring training? Was there ever a time where you went in there not feeling like you had to prove yourself?
No. Every spring training that I was at was pretty much I was the guy that was trying to fight my way in. So there was a ton of pressure on, can I make a name for myself? Can I impress enough? So, yeah, I unfortunately never wore the tennis shoes and was all that comfortable.
It's such a different world, isn't it, than some other sports, too? Because in baseball, they have many options for you. You can send you down to AAA, AA. You've had opportunities to be in extended spring ball and all those things. And in other sports, it's like in the NFL is one where there is none of that. I mean, we see it at training camp. You basically are either on the team or you're gone. And a lot of times out of the league, too, and never really with an opportunity to come back. So it's a different kind of pressure, but it's the part that I think a lot of people don't see. How many times do you hear fans just say, well, those guys make millions of dollars, as if every player makes millions of dollars every year that they play, and we know that's not the case.
Well, especially in Bill's training camp, NFL training camps, like you said, there's nowhere else to go. You're talking to a guy who, Eric Stryker, for example, yep. Bill's linebacker in the offseason. He was slated to start for 3 days. He was a starting NFL rookie linebacker who now is, I have no idea what the heck he's doing, but that difference between the $420,000 NFL minimum and zero. That's it. There's no in between. There's no parachute. It's that or nothing. So, as much as stressful as that baseball life is, at least there is something to work back up for if you don't make that major league roster coming out of camp.
Yeah, and it always strikes me, the investment is how many people an organization has that you will, never hear of. Guys that don't make it out of single A. I mean, you were one of the lucky ones.
No, absolutely. I mean, every level you go up, it's harder and harder to make it, right? It's that giant pyramid, if you will. Right? High school ball, it's tough to make, I think 6% play college. The numbers just keep dwindling and going down even farther as you go higher up to the big leagues. The one thing to Pat's point, though, is baseball is famous for its minor leagues, right? We have opportunities to go play independent ball. You can go in a multitude of different leagues throughout the country to keep the dream alive, to get that opportunity. You're one good season away. You're 190+ mile an hour fastball away from having somebody see you and give you an opportunity. Baseball is truly a game of consistency, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. I could go through a number of different cliches, but it really is just it's a different animal.
What I was wondering, if you were ever in a circumstance where you and maybe a couple other pitchers are around at spring training and a new guy comes in and you're all watching him thinking, maybe he throws really hard or has something, and he's on your team, say, but you don't really like the guy.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. When you're in spring training, it's hard because you want to be friendly and you've got this camaraderie but you're fighting for your career. You're fighting for a paycheck with guys that are in the locker right next to you. So it's a unique dynamic during spring training. There is a lot of animosity at times. It hasn't quite become a brotherhood until the teams separate and then they start going their
I get a kick out of the caste system they use in Fort Myers. You get out in Fort Myers and it's a short walking distance from where the Major League Park is and where the minor league complex is, but there's only one way to drive. I mean, you see occasionally the major leaguers in a golf cart, always in a golf cart, driving around, circumventing and going around the minor. You never see any of the minor leaguers walking to the Major League Park unless they're in the game that day. It's like totally forbidden. It's really amazing. So spring training, it's something, that I think if you're a baseball fan, you haven't been to spring training, you should really do it because it's great. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We're talking Buffalo Bills next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House, and this portion brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Mike, something you said in your unfinished business last week kind of stuck with me all week long, where you were making the case, and more the Buffalo Bills, where you need the championship mentality, where the goal is the Super Bowl. The goal isn't the playoffs. Which is, I think, an important distinction.
Well, I think that makes it difficult as a fan because you're sitting there, you're dying. It's 17 years where you haven't even had that chance. And Tyrod Taylor, to me, is the poster child for this because we know Tyrod is good enough that if they have a good defense, they could make the playoffs. I really do think they could. Shoot, they could have made it this year if the defense was better. So a lot of fans, first thing they'll say is, well, who's better? Who's out there that's better? Okay, because you're looking to be marginally better than Tyrod Taylor. And as a team, I look back in the last 17 years and think, even if they would have made the playoffs, is any of those teams going anywhere? So the goal is to build a championship. It's almost laughable with the Bills because a lot of people say, championship? You can't even make the playoffs. And I understand that. But the goal should be, especially with a new head coach, the goal should be, let's get this team in line to build a team that can someday win a championship. But I can see where the frustration is there.
But if you're not one of the two teams then that gets to the Super Bowl, essentially you've got 30 teams failing.
Yeah, that's failing, but there's different ways to fail. You can have a team that fails because they're missing a piece. Maybe the Houston Texans might be that team. I mean, they've been good enough defensively to make it. Or you see a team that is young and building. It depends on who you look at. The Dallas Cowboys say. I mean, you look at that team and you go, yeah, they failed this year, but they look like they have a bright future. So there's different ways to do that. And then there's other teams that made the playoffs and you go, well, that's about, and the Miami Dolphins might be that team. Yeah, they made the playoffs. Were they better than the Bills? I mean, 2 crazy games between the two, and they made it. Now the question, say, for the Dolphins are, do you have the quarterback that someday can go there? And that's a big question to ask for an organization.
Well, to that point, I would rather be the Bills right now than the Dolphins because you've had marginal success. So you can't shake anything up too crazy or else your fans get really upset. Like if the Bills blew everything up tomorrow, right? Tyrod's gone. We're going to cut LaShawn to save money. Kyle Williams is gone. You can justify it in saying we're going to hit the reset button and we're trying for a Super Bowl. The Dolphins can't do that. They have to stay status quo, and the GM really knows, and I mean, let's face it, he's a smart football guy. That team isn't going to win a Super Bowl. So what can you do to get better? You got a guy like Jay Ajayi, who's a guy no one's ever heard of, who had 2 good games against the Buffalo Bills, and Ryan Tannehill. What do? You can't get rid of either of them. You're stuck.
What should you do, though? I mean, if you know you're going to be marginally better with a guy like Tyrod Taylor, perhaps he's your best option, but you deep down think that he's not championship caliber, do you keep him or do you let him go?
I think it boils back to Mike's point. I just don't see how you can shoot for second place. How do you shoot for just getting there, right? If your mentality is to win a championship and you make the best out of what you have, right? Make the best stew with the ingredients you have, I get it. However, you shouldn't be looking to just make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if the answer is get rid of Tyrod to build on it, because we know we're going to go, they're going to have one better year, and every year they fail, but they fail forward, then I agree. I think you make the move. If it's a situation where you're worried you're going to fail backwards, then maybe you hold on to what you have, make the best of what you've got, and continue to look to find pieces to implement.
And the problem with having a GM and a coach maybe not together, now, Doug Whaley is still there, but he's been part of the failure up to this point. A realistic approach, as much as I know you love number 12, and he's not going to play forever, but a realistic approach would be to look at it and go, okay, 2-3 years, and Brady probably is either done or close to done by then. You want to have the team that is ready to take over for the Patriots because it has been a roadblock to everybody in that division. So realistically, you say 2 to 3 years, if we have the right guy, we are the team that takes over. Because right now, I mean, everybody who's picking divisions next year is picking the Patriots to win that division because they win it every year.
Just quickly, do the fans matter? I mean, to put a more interesting product on the field that may or may not make the playoffs that they'll become a little enthusiastic about, but isn't championship caliber? Is there something to be said for that?
Yes, because TV money is what makes it cash, and I mean, what you're selling at the gate and jerseys too. Yeah, the fans absolutely matter. Yes.
Alrighty. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. Connors and Ferris brought us this section. We'll be back. The Press Box Trivia Question brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress, now $977. You save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. Here's a look at the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress. Now $977. You save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and to Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House, and this portion brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Like it or not, we have Dexter Fowler making a comment critical of Donald Trump's immigration policy.
I've said this before, I wish sports could stay out of the political arena. However, when it's your wife and it's somebody that you love, I can understand being passionate about it.
He has an Iranian wife, so he has a vested interest, and apparently his sister or sister-in-law or something is directly involved with the repercussions of this. It goes back to, do you trust professional athletes out there with a political opinion?
Well, I think everybody's allowed to have a political opinion. It is kind of funny to me when I see people who talk about, say, coaches, who talk about Greg Popovich, very political, Steve Kerr, very political. In most cases, I'm not talking about Dexter Fowler, but in most cases, it's somebody who has a certain status in the game, that they've won, they have a certain cachet, and it's awful difficult for a team to criticize them or to try to quiet them down. When it happens with a lesser coach, a coach who's on the bubble, a coach who has problems, usually they don't say very much. But people are allowed to have their own opinion. I just sometimes think that the reaction to it, positive or negatively, should be no different than it is to celebrities. People are entitled to their opinion, but when they say it as a known person, it gets way more attention.
Like Kyrie Irving suggesting that the world was flat.
World be flat.
World be flat is the greatest line, yes.
You get what you pay for, I guess.
I really, there's a lot of people who hold these athletes and coaches up as like, because they're famous and good at sports, they're smart people, and that's not necessarily the case. I'm not talking about Dexter Fowler here. I'm talking about any of these guys with a political opinion. People that criticized Rex Ryan for going out and introducing Donald Trump. It was a stupid thing to do, in my opinion, because you expose yourselves, but he's not any smarter than the guy sitting next to you at the bar on a Saturday. None of these guys are, right? This idea that these folks know more than we do because they have money or they're good at sports, it's an idiotic argument. Caught myself.
I've always thought that, we give a guy a big paycheck and suddenly makes him smarter. It really doesn't.
Well, or you make them more famous, because there are, celebrities constantly that say that. Now, again, as a person, they're entitled to their opinion, but getting upset about it or following it because the person's made some good movies or is good at baseball, I don't really think makes a lot of sense.
Mike, quickly, like it or not, Jim Boeheim actually retiring after the 2018 season.
You know, I didn't think before. I mean, he is going to retire at some point, but I don't think he's enjoying this season as much. I think it's sort of gotten away from him a little bit. The team doesn't play the way he wants to. He's going into that world of fifth-year seniors, you know, to try to help the program and all. I think in years when he's really snarky and really got his team going the way he wants, I think he's enjoying it. To me, just watching him for many years, I don't think he's enjoying it as much, and I could see him stepping away soon.
I was wondering if that makes him like more likely to leave or less likely to leave.
I would say more likely to leave. I think he had his Final Four. His resume is built. I mean, come on, he's been there all this amount of time. I think more likely. I think when he's really not enjoying getting on the players, then I think it's time for him to go.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Unfinished business is next. The Press Box Stat of the Week brought to you by Fiondoc and Fiondoc. Remember, if you've made the wrong choice, it's time to make the right choice. Fiondoc and Fiondoc, New York's DWI leader for over 35 years. Visit nydwi.com. The bakery flavors you love, now available in your Dunkin' coffee. Keep on sipping in the happy with Dunkin's Vanilla Cupcake and new Fudge Brownie Coffees and Lattes. America runs on Dunkin'. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This is Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
If the Sabres want to win a Stanley Cup, you trade your best player and you trade him now. Evander Kane, I don't like him very much, but let's put that aside. Evander Kane, arguably, over the last 2 to 3 months, has been one of the best players in the NHL. Evander Kane is a forward we haven't seen in Buffalo in maybe 15 years. And Evander Kane needs to be traded immediately. And Sabres fans are flipping out when anyone suggests this. 3 easy reasons why. 1, Evander Kane causes a whole bunch of trouble. You cannot guarantee that Evander Kane won't get in trouble in the offseason, which makes him untradeable no matter what happens. 2, you need defense. You got a ton of forwards, right? You're going to have to pay them eventually down the line. Evander Kane doesn't want to stay in Buffalo. He's a bright lights, big city guy, and he's going to command a huge paycheck that you don't want to pay. And 3, even if you could sign Evander Kane, you can't do it. His contract is up after next season. He's not going to re-sign in Buffalo, and he's going to walk. You're going to get nothing for him. He's never going to have a higher trade value than he does right now. There are pieces you need other than him. Why are the Sabres not trading Evander Kane at this very moment as we're talking right now? Trade Evander Kane.
You need a hockey team to run.
I do.
We need to find you one.
The Tequila Sunrises.
That's it. I just don't understand why we're in such a hurry to finish everything. And it seems like the sports world is, we've got speed up rules in baseball. We're just trying to make everything be so much faster. And it seems like we're in such a big hurry to do what? Hurry up and wait. We've got 6 new rules where we're trying to make sure that the game goes faster. And I believe, in my honest opinion, if you're taking away an intentional walk, you're taking away some of the game. How do you not ask a guy to go out there and throw 4 balls outside of the strike zone? You don't know what can happen. If it takes one time for the ball to go over a catcher's head, for the game to be won on that play, for a guy to step over the plate, hit a ball into the right center gap, if that happens one time, it's talked about for years to come. I just don't believe that those rules are what's going to make baseball that much more exciting. I don't think it's going to make enough of a difference. It gets a lot of attention on, as I said, just hurrying things along. We're always in such a hurry to hurry up and wait.
Boy, 2 of my favorite plays involved those intentional walks. The famous Johnny Bench play where he struck out in a World Series game. Manager comes out, they call for an intentional walk on a 3-2 pitch. He relaxes. They throw it right down the middle for strike 3. And I saw Lee Thomas of the Red Sox back in the 60s strike out on an intentional walk. Foul ball. He was reaching. They said, screw it, pitch to him. Struck him out.
Do you remember Dennis Martinez used to do that same thing? He would call for an intentional walk. It happened like 2 or 3 times when he was with the Expos, and he would throw the ball right down the middle. So it's just part of the game. You can't take away strategy. Baseball is strategy. You're taking away part of it.
Magic Johnson is a really smart guy. He went to the Lakers and said, hire me, I'll be the consultant. And then the first thing he advised them to do was to hire Magic Johnson to run the basketball operations. The Lakers are a mess, and hiring a big name and a big guy who has never run a front office is a bad idea. Just ask the guy who, well, used to be with the Lakers, you know, Phil Jackson in New York. A lot of fans get excited. They go, Magic's the guy, and players are going to want to play for him. I hate to break this to you, but to the 20-some-year-old guys, sure, they love Magic. He's the old guy in the suit now. You better do the job, and you better do it well. They're trying to copy what the Golden State Warriors did by hiring an agent to be the general manager and to do that work. And it might work, but Golden State was light years ahead of where the Lakers are right now. Magic better come up with some magic to make the Lakers relevant again, because right now it looks like a little more showtime than substance in L.A.
Yeah, and the stakes are really high in L.A. This isn't Michael Jordan taking over the Charlotte Bobcats.
You're right. This is to try to get the Lakers back, and it may not work.
Alrighty. Well, that is our program. This portion, Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Greg, thank you very much. Good to have you back.
My pleasure.
Thanks
for having me.
Do you make a spring training trip? Do you ever get back down and get the itch to see it again?
I don't, but it's definitely in the works. It's in the planning. Let's put it that way.
It's one of my favorite times of year. Plus, March in Florida is paradise.
Nice.
Everything is perfect.
Just like
Mike?
Rochester this year.
Yeah, that's right so far. Mid-60s all week. Mike, Pat, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.